Welcome everyone to Male Fuzz TV. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2022 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 4, episode 21, and it is called Rising Star. So full spoilers for the episode as always. And this is kind of epilogue to what felt like a finale last episode. What's interesting, and part of why I'm now that I've watched this episode, I've got a sneaking suspicion that the finale they made for season 4 is set 20 years later, because Delenn is narrating at the end and she says something like about the next 20 years are going to be blah blah blah, and I'm thinking this is how they get away with the fact that so much, like, because this felt like it was wrapping up. This felt like it was ending things.
Everything felt like it was wrapped up.
It felt like it was
sure.
ending things, and there was going to be an epilogue episode, so that's why it's so easy. Relatively speaking, so easy for them to move the next episode to the end of season 5 and just do a year of stories before then. So, and I do think there's at least one line of like audio that they put in to explain Ivanova being gone.
Mm-hmm.
The ISN lady towards the end, like, there's like a line about Ivanova gone off to do something else for a year, and I'm like, that feels like, as much as they already shot everything, I feel like they could have done a little bit of a little bit of audio just to explain why she's leaving.
Yeah,
that's what that felt like to me. But yes,
it definitely did to me too.
Yeah, what did you think of this episode that basically was setting up a status quo for after the bulk of the show?
Yeah, it really felt like an ending. I thought, like, everything was just getting kind of wrapped up. I was actually pretty upset to find out that they had a private wedding that we didn't get to see anything of.
I knew you were going to be upset about this.
Yeah.
Especially since the teases that Londo and G'Kar were there, because he's the...
Yeah, it's over, so it's not like the finale is now going to be the wedding.
Well, it's because the... Because keep in mind, when they shot this, they thought it was ending, so they thought, we'll just have to sort of write the wedding happening off camera quickly.
Well, yeah, I have that in mind, but I'm still upset about
it. I'm sure if they knew they were getting a 5th season at the time, they would have made a point of having a wedding episode and done everything. I'm sure they would have. But yes, but they are married now. Apparently, they had a quiet ceremony.
I am happy about
Yeah.
that.
She even got to meet his father. We get to see Daddy Sheridan briefly.
Yeah, I was hoping that they would have some sort of interaction.
It was nice. Yeah, he's like, you're going to be my daughter-in-law, and she's smiling at him. That sounds very sweet.
Yeah. Well, I was hoping, Sheridan got to see his dad also after everything that he went through, just for being related. And
he did have a really, like, when he first saw him and he went up to hug him, it was a really genuine kind of, like, he was giddy and, like, delighted to see him.
Yeah, he kind of almost sounds like a kid.
Yeah.
Which a lot of us do when we get around our parents. We just suddenly become children again.
Yeah. I mean, I was never a child. I was,
You're a child now. What are you talking about?
How dare you? I went from toddler to miserable old man in the blink of an eye. Thank you very much. So I think there's obviously some big things to deal with here. Like, various characters get some kind of ending. Obviously, the episode starts with what the cliffhanger was last episode, which is your favorite character, Cole, sacrificing himself for Ivanova, and we get the aftermath of Franklin rushing in, and Ivanova is like, she's up, but she's like, on her knees, like crying up against the window and like just bawling her eyes out and being really upset that Cole did this. And there's some interesting stuff here. Some of it, I feel like it was like doing this really fine line thing where it's like, okay, this has to make sense that the character has to react to to Cole. Sorry, I was saying Marcus, right? To Cole did this big, sacrificial thing for love. She has to acknowledge that. She has to sort of talk about the fact that he did have these feelings for her. But at the same time, because this romance was in part kind of like wanted by the network and it wasn't necessarily naturally what was intended in the first place, you also feel that JMS doesn't want to just like have her go, oh, I realize I love him now and I wish I told him that I love him. It's more like, no, he did this big thing for me. I kind of wish I gave him a chance, but not that I've been madly in love this whole time and I'm just confessing it now. Like,
I love this, honestly. I feel so vindicated, where it's just because the whole time I'm like, I don't want this romance. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel right. Like they don't have the chemistry, but like it seems like the the show is pushing the romance angle. So I'm so glad that JMS was on my side.
He was?
We were very much on the same page of like, yeah, it's a one-sided relationship. And he definitely, you know, loved her, was willing to sacrifice himself for her. And she like feels bad that she didn't reciprocate that same feeling. And like, maybe she could have if she tried, but you know, it was very much she just sort of entertained him for a while and, you know, gave him a couple of glances and, you know, to him that meant everything, but to her it was just like, you know, pushing it away.
Yeah. So and this scene has little bits of humor in it. The phrase "I could have at least boffed him once," I think, is uttered at one point.
That would have been cruel though, right? Like just it would be like a pity thing.
Yeah, that'd be sad. Also, I've never heard the word "boff" used to describe sex before. And,
yeah, me neither.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's more of an English thing than a UK-wide thing because I've never heard it. So,
I mean, I figured out what it meant by the context.
Yeah,
the
context
sentence,
gave it away. But Franklin's reaction made sense to me because, you know.
Yeah.
What did you just say, Ivanova? No. Also, the ISN lady who's doing the report at the start and the end of the episode says Ivanova, not Ivanova.
I noticed that too.
Yeah, not quite getting it right, but that's okay. So that's kind of like deals with that, but because that's basically Ivanova's scene, other than just seeing her at the end looking out the window and the ISN lady saying, "Oh yes, Ivanova get promoted and she's going to go off and do something else, like another posting for a year." She's
too, you know,
heartbroken.
She can't be on the same station anymore.
Yeah.
Which doesn't really seem like in character for her, but I understand why it's there for explaining why she's not in season 5.
It's a necessity more than anything else. Garibaldi, we get his kind of like endings where he's hunting for his ex-wife on Mars.
It also seems like Garibaldi and Sheridan had a moment off screen that we didn't get to see that we wanted to also, which is kind of a bummer, right? We want to see them like, you know, have a conversation.
I still think we're going to get a proper one-to-one with them, but again, them thinking the show's ending, they just kind of like, they've clearly had talked about some of the broad strokes of this. I still think there's room for them having more of a proper heart-to-heart that we get to see next season, or possibly even in the new finale that we're getting next episode. But yeah, like, you know, clearly they've talked about what's happened, like, you know, what Bester did to him and stuff. But we'll get to that. I want to save that for Sheridan stuff. Garibaldi is hunting for his ex-wife on Mars, beats up some people, goes in with some rangers and rescues her from people who kidnap rich wives and ransom them off, which is a weird plan given that the rich husband's dead. So I'm not really sure like who they were going to ransom her to exactly, but that seemed to be their...
Yeah, I mean, isn't she the one with all the money now?
Yeah, technically, yes. But she's ransomed to herself, I guess. But when we see them again later, they're in bed together, and Garibaldi, he might go back to Babylon 5, he might stay with her. They're kind of leaving it open for either possibility. But it does admit that Zach's doing a good job. We don't even see Zach. Do you know what?
Yeah, we need the finale to be about Zach.
Yes. The fact that Zach wasn't in this episode is justifying the existence of an entire 5th season. We need season 5 to be Zach's story, damn.
Zach and Lita, yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, there's no Leah this episode. How dare they?
Yeah, and Lita, she's been done dirty. You know, she needs to have some sort of, here's your season also, Lita, where you get to shine. And, you know, you get everything you want.
Yes. So... yeah, I mean, obviously this is like the backstory where he had this on-off again thing with this woman. He regrets leaving her, so now maybe, you know, it leaves in this ambiguous thing. Obviously, we're going to have more of him now because we're getting another season, but you can sort of see where if this was the ending, barring like an epilogue episode that they've pushed, that's how this works as an ending for him. Like, oh yeah, maybe he'll stay with her now.
It does feel like an ending. You're right. Yeah. It seems wrapped up. Like he'll probably stay with her, get married, and, you know, enjoy the riches. And by the way, like, I love the bed sheets. I don't normally notice these kind of things unless they're like really sci-fi, but like the waffle pattern bed sheets, they look so comfortable. I might look up some things.
I did not notice the waffle sheets, I have to admit.
Yeah, I noticed them. But anyway.
Yeah, so that's happening. Obviously, the bigger thing though is with Sheridan, which has larger implications for everyone as well. Is interestingly not unlike the episode where he's been interrogated. Like the new president, the acting president, comes in and is like, "Look, morally, I agree with what you did, right? And half the people in Earth Force agree with you. The other half want you to be shot." So there's a real sort of like debate about whether or not you did the right thing or not. But either way, it needs to be cleaned up. Like, this has to fit into the system, and part of that is like, so you can resign, and we'll give, everyone who served under you will have immunity. They won't be like persecuted or anything, and as a result, but you have to, step down and just not be in the system anymore. And if not, then we'll have to make an example out of you. And so he does agree to step down. Although, as we're seeing this, we're also seeing that Londo, G'Kar are on their way to Earth with Delenn, and it's like, oh, it feels like they've got something cooking, because, Delenn's planning something, and did you enjoy Londo and G'Kar? They're kind of this growing friendship that's kind of happening, which we kind of predicted at this point that they were going to get closer.
I don't know. I'm still a little cum-si cum-sa about it, just because, Londo is responsible for genocide.
This is true. I do like it though.
I feel like it's a little bit of stretch that they ever go back to like, well, there can't be season 1, but like a friendship seems a little bit of a stretch. I don't know.
I think the point of it is that they've been through the worst more than anyone in terms of like their feelings for each other, and if they can coincide, if they can work together on something, that's meant to be this visual representation of the unity that the show is kind of preaching for. So I like it as that. I do think their interactions are still fun. Like the stuff at the start with Veer and the jokes, Londo's, they're not good jokes necessarily, but I enjoy them being joked between them, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think the jokes themselves are funny, but him poking fun at G'Kar's sex life is kind of amusing because it's just Londo poking fun at him. So there are little moments that, I enjoy, and but yeah, they come to Earth. Sheridan steps down in a press conference, but then they get up to speak, and it's Delenn who does most of the talking, where she reveals this new alliance, that the Alliance of Non-Allied Worlds, or whatever it was called, the Union,
non-aligned worlds,
yeah, that's they're doing away with that, and they're actually
League of
League, that was it.
Worlds.
But now they're forming an actual alliance, and the Rangers are going to be made up of humans, Minbari, and possibly more who choose to join. All people who are in the alliance could, have people volunteer to be a Ranger.
Yep.
So
sounds a little bit like they're forming a federation to me.
That doesn't. Do you know what? That does not surprise me. It makes sense. Well, think about it. Think about what the goals and all the things that Star Trek represents and the Federation's supposed to represent, and in all the things that JMS through Babylon 5 is trying to find like answers and solutions to. Them forming something that's like a federation at the end actually makes a lot of sense.
Oh yeah, totally. And I like, the Federation was started by, Earth and then Vulcans and stuff like that. But I like here that Earth is like the last to join because you can't really trust Earth.
Yeah, Earth is well, it's a bit of a shithole. Let's be honest.
No, I like that too.
Yeah. Obviously, it has the funny cut where they're making this, and it's like, we've got a president, and then it turns out that Sheridan's going to be the president of this alliance of the new Federation, and. Like this guy who's there is like mad at him because he obviously doesn't like Sheridan, and he's like, what, I've stepped down from Earth Force. I did what I said I would do. I got another job.
And now you still have to call me Mr. President.
If anything, it says like he's gotten a promotion because now he's getting called Mr. President.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, he had to get a presidential beard first though, so I approve of the beard.
Yeah, I missed the times with mutton chops when the presidents had great mutton chops. That would have been a good statement.
Sure.
We're in the mutton chop phase of the Federation.
Sure. Yeah, Delenn explains like a lot of the ins and outs of this alliance, and how the Rangers are there to promote peace. They won't necessarily intervene, but they will happily tell like sides if someone else is going to be aggressive against them, because the whole point of this alliance is to stop aggression and to make the benefits of working together and being in peace. Because I think when they're having their private meeting afterwards with the president, and Londo's sort of speaking up for it and saying this is a good idea, you kind of believe him when he says, yeah, look, I'm Centauri. Like, all we've ever been about is glory and, like, winning wars. But honestly, I'm sick of war. That's what this is about. It's about stopping that and just having some sort of peace to move forward with. So, I dig all that.
It's interesting. They never really wrapped up the bits with the little aliens that live on the parasite aliens.
Well, because we know that's a thing in the future that Sheridan saw, I guess they were leaving that left because, well, this has to happen in the future someday for that to happen, and that's still going to happen.
So if we ever make like a Babylon 5 movie or something, that's what it would be about. Maybe that's what JMS was thinking when he thought the show was canceled at season 4.
I mean, maybe they'll do some stuff with that in season 5. Like, totally, that's something they
That's
could.
what I suspect. Yeah.
But I guess the way I was reading it, like, again, taking this as the ending as it was planned, is that, well, okay, we don't have time to deal with that, and that's, like, we know that's still a factor within the future with Londo, like, when Centauri Prime is, like, screwed and all that stuff. So it's like, oh, well, that still has to happen in the future someday. So it's just, like, that has to be left open anyway. Because they mentioned the Emperor, the acting Emperor on Centauri Prime is dying, and that Londo's going to have to take over. So it does sound like it's going to go into that future,
Londo doesn't want it.
Because I think he's heard enough about the future that he's like, I don't want the glory anymore. This all sounds like a...
Yeah, I think he had his taste of what, like, upper echelons of politics was on on Centauri, and it was like, you know what? Maybe I like just being an ambassador.
Yeah, he had an arc, right? He actually learned some things about everything going through what he went through.
Maybe I shouldn't be in power.
So I liked all that. I suppose probably the biggest scene to talk about though is the Bester scene. Bester comes to see Sheridan, and this is obviously where Sheridan, I heard what you did to Garibaldi, and Bester's like, well, it's his word against mine. He won't even admit to the virus or the antidote. He says in theory if this existed, this is what we would do, but he never owns up to it, obviously. But he asked the question that we expected him to ask, which is like, hey, those telepaths you used to fight your war, was one of them my beloved? Because
he says lover.
Yeah.
You.
Yeah. The Chekhov saying lover is not something I think I want to see or hear.
No.
But he's like, if she was...
Maybe I'll see it, but I don't want to hear it.
But he says, if she's one of the ones that you used, and if she's dead, then you're not leaving this building alive. Like, he just outright says, I'm going to kill you, or I'll have someone else kill you. Like, that's what he says. And he reveals, no, she's back in Babylon 5. It doesn't sound like they made that choice, though, because it was Bester's lover, though. It sounds like they picked the suitable candidates based on if they had someone who cared about them. They picked the ones that were the least... connections kind of thing.
Yeah, the ones who are already terminal.
Which is
terminal.
Which is the more humane way of doing it. Still, but obviously, still shades of grey. Still, some.
Yeah.
But it was. But
it's exploitative, and it's definitely wrong.
But and this is something.
What other option do they have? I guess.
And this still worked as an ending to this, but you can see how there's more to explore as well in season 5, which is. Bester, you're still going to try and take over. You still want the telepaths to ultimately in Psychor to be in power. So you're going to wage war, and you're going to wait until things are quiet. So I could see season 5 delving into this a little bit, but at the same time, I could also see them not, because this sounds believable what he's saying, that they'll wait some years for peace to sort of everyone to be at their calm and everyone to not suspect things, and before they strike. But what did you think of that scene?
I wonder, since Earth has joined I'm just calling it the Federation now, but since Earth has joined, what that means for Psychor. Like, maybe that's one of the stipulations where, like,
maybe
you can't have an evil membership thing where people can mutiny at any time against what we've built, our alliance that we've built, because they have abilities greater than ours.
Yeah,
maybe like they're trying to filter them out so they could be more like Lita, so you don't have to be part of Psychor.
Yeah, maybe they'll have stipulations on that. Maybe Psychor will become more independent. I did like, actually, one of the sort of the benefits of this is that, like, the other cultures are all going to share the technology, because, like, that's part of this alliance. Is like, you can have, like, the way our ships work, so you don't have to have spinning ships for gravity, so that'll make life easier. presumably they're all going to chip in like parts of the technology to make things easier for everyone. It makes some sense. And that's kind of the the linchpin of it, is because the president's keeping, I'm skeptical that like this is all going to go through and everyone's going to stick to this.
Yeah, like, well, we have more military power than you, though. Okay, maybe we'll join.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of makes sense that the solution to a lot of this is to kind of form a Star Trek like society in a weird way. It's not all the way there. There's still currency. There's still these other systems in place that aren't in Star Trek. But
it's not very leftist like Star Trek is.
But yeah, it's interesting. So it's so funny to me. I'm just imagining like JMS finding out that, like, because obviously they had to write the end of season 4 as if it was the ending, and he finds out that it's not actually ending, and he's like, wait a minute, I did so much of my endgame stuff already. So, because you could sort of see like the idea of like building this alliance is something that he always planned for the end of the show, to be like, okay, this is the positive future with the potential to be better that will leave in a nice sort of uplifting note. And now he has to actually write a season that, with this alliance operating in some fashion, presumably.
I'll take a season of just everything working out great.
Sure.
Why not?
It won't be dramatic, but yeah,
that's okay. I want to see what their positive future looks like. So when they said it was, did they say there was going to be a 20-year jump to the next episode originally?
No, they didn't say that. But Delenn at the end of the episode, when she's like her closing narration, she's talking. She's sort of summing up and saying that Babylon 5 endures. The Alliance endures, that kind of thing.
Okay.
She says at one point in there, the next 20 years were full of like surprises and things like that. So. It sounded to me like the reason why this feels like so finite and the last episode could be moved is that it's probably going to be set years later, and that's why it was so easy to come in.
It's interesting that you say 20 years, because isn't that when Sheridan's going to die? So roughly. It could be like the finale maybe was like everybody getting back together to grieve over his death. Yeah. Or to say goodbye, or to be there for the funeral or something.
I could see his death being the. I mean, obviously it wasn't an exact science. It was about 20 years. It's not like they know the exact day, but yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
maybe that's what it is then.
I could see his death playing into the actual like finale that's moved. Well, I think what's interesting though is that obviously some of this did feel like a finale. So something like Garibaldi, who I have to imagine is going to be back on the station like next season, or if not next episode.
Jeff Bezos, just so loaded with money. Living life on Mars. Oh, Mars also now is a free state.
Oh, that's one of the things they announced. Yeah, Mars is now independent. Yeah, which is cool. Which is positive change. It's an immediate like thing that they can change that says, hey, Mars is free now. Doesn't have to like be this rebellion anymore. So
yeah.
I am curious, like, what they do next season, and I've heard very mixed opinions on next season. And obviously, I'm saying all this as if we're finished season 4. We're not. There's one more episode, but the next episode, because it was like a redone thing, it kind of, in some ways, feels like the first episode of season 5 because it was like after they thought it was ending, and then they went back and made a new episode.
Yeah, I mean, and this does feel like a finale.
Yeah, and obviously, the episode that was next is now the end of season 5. So, in a lot of ways, the final episode of season 4 now, up to the second last episode of season 5, is the actual season 5, and then we go back for the it's all very weird and whatever, but it's making some sense to an extent. But I am curious what they do with it and what plots we actually get coming out of it. Did you like the small moment of Lennier and Delenn where they're talking about Ivanova talking about unrequited love, and Delenn looks really sad? Not Delenn, sorry. Lennier looks really sad because he might be in love with Delenn.
I totally forgot about that storyline that he admitted to. Was it? It was somebody. He admitted that he had feelings that he loved her, that he loved Len, and we were speculating that it was not romantic. I think he even says it wasn't romantic. It's just like almost like a mentorship love or something. Like somebody worshiping like a god or like a mother figure.
I think I took it as like, it's not romantic in the same way we think of it as romantic, but obviously he has strong feelings for it, and definitely the way he reacts here, where he's kind of got like a tear in his eye, and
it does feel like it might be romantic in this.
It's somewhat romantic. I mean, it really, him having to listen to like her and Sheridan have sex for the first time definitely feels a lot more painful for him in hindsight. But because I wonder if it's not so physical though. Like it doesn't, like, I don't know, like it feels a little different still. But yeah, it definitely feels like because when he looks upset when he says, you know, about unrequited love, she kind of puts her hand on his face and says, you know, not all love is unrequited, and kind of like it's kind of a sweet moment where it's like, yeah, it's like she's always going to be in his life, and he means a lot to her. Like there's clearly like a bond between them. Because they're also talking about Cole at this point dying. That's why the subject comes up, because obviously his unrequited love with Ivanova was what they're talking about. So, it was a sweet moment that was well acted, I thought. And I felt like it had layers because it wasn't just. Because, you know, I can see this in other TV shows where, like, oh, one character's secretly in love with another character, but they're getting married to someone else, so then they're just upset that they're... I don't think this is necessarily going to come up again. I think this quiet moment of just him feeling a little sad that, you know, they're at this point now where she's about to go off and marry him properly. I think this is it. I think this is just a little moment where we can just be alone with him, and he's got mixed feelings about it, and that's sweet, and it's nice.
Yeah, it's his. I'm sure Delenn understands what he means.
Yeah,
and you know is why she reacts the way she does. But it is good acting from Billy Mumy, because he doesn't really have a lot of emotion as his Minbari character. So like Lennier like actually welling up a little bit in the eyes and stuff when he's talking about it is, yeah, I think it's pretty effective. I guess I don't know how I feel about him being in love with her still. It's, I guess I understand it, but I don't quite know. If it's not romantic, then
I think,
what is it exactly?
I guess I would look at it as like when someone younger kind of falls for someone who's older, and the older person's never going to like, you know, return it in the same way, because like no, you're like.
But they understand. I mean, when people are younger, they're much more passionate, and you know. Love is much more intense when you're like,
Delenn feels like
in your teenage years and stuff like that.
Because Lennier feels, I mean, he doesn't feel like a kid, but he feels like, you know, he's someone, when the show started, it felt like he just got out of college kind of age, right? Whereas Delenn feels like a middle-aged woman, right?
Hey, it feels like an intern.
Yeah.
You know?
And so I think it's this sort of thing where he's fallen for this older woman that he sees as powerful and strong and smart and
yeah, she always says the right things.
Yeah. So you can sort of see it as like, you know, like someone who falls for like a teacher or something, and they're like, oh, that's sweet, but like, you know, well, it's never going to happen because I'm twice your age kind of thing.
I'm sure she sees Lennier as more of like a son than she would a partner, but maybe it's slightly different, you know.
Yeah, that's the thing. The social structure of the Minbari make this kind of weird, because it's like, oh, maybe they see things a little differently than we do. So
yeah. Oh well. I don't know. If they do something with it in season 5, maybe I'll have more of an opinion on it. But
yeah,
as it is right now, it's just a thing that was brought up in an episode, you know, quite a while ago, and I guess it's just the follow through. There, he at least gets to say something to her before she gets married. And
I think it's fine if they don't bring it up. I think this is fine as just like the payoff to it.
Yeah. If
they don't bring it up again, I think that's okay. Let's talk about the payoff to G'Kar being able to see through his eye when it's not connected.
Ew. I did not like this.
This was a weirdly creepy little moment. So Londo and G'Kar. I
love G'Kar. I don't like this at all.
Londo and G'Kar are sitting after the private wedding. They were clearly at the wedding.
Yeah, they're covered in glitter.
Yeah, and G'Kar's sitting eating. I didn't even realize he was eating what he was eating. And Londo says, "Don't eat that. Humans call it rice." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, first of all, rice is great. Admittedly, rice that you throw is not cooked, so I wouldn't say that's good. But you know what I mean. But he's sitting eating the rice, and about halfway through the scene, I started to notice like, wait, he's got his eyes shut, like his eyes somewhere, like, you know, because you don't notice it at first that he's
I thought maybe he just got used to not having the second eye, and just preferred it. And
Londo's like, you know, it would be great to get a peek to see how things are going with our new young couple, right? And
already a weird line.
Which is a weird line, yeah. And then G'Kar, you notice that his eye's not there, and then Londo's like, wait, G'Kar, where's your eye? And he just has this like grin, this like shit-eating grin, it's just a creepy smile on his face. And then it fades to like the eye on a table, and the camera like pans over, and there they are. I mean, they're not having sex right now, but they were.
They seem to be done.
Yeah, they're just like snuggling afterwards. But I'm like, you could see them having sex like 10 minutes ago, presumably.
10 minutes. I mean, give them more credit. It's their wedding night.
I'm not saying it lasted 10 minutes. I'm saying it's been 10 minutes since they finished. They could have been going for an hour before then.
Okay. Anyway, yeah, it was gross. It was a gross scene. Like, it was just, I didn't like any of this. Like,
yeah,
it's
weird.
It's such an invasion of privacy. Plus, these are people that they clearly respect. Like, why would you want to see that? But I don't want to see people I know.
I mean, I liked it before the creepy part. Like, see before that, when it was like them just sitting after the wedding, and I like that they both seem to like the fact that Delenn and Sheridan were a couple. Like, that's all sweet. It's that when it turns to about them, like, oh, let's check in on them, and oh, the eyes there spying out. Like, oh, that was weird. Like, I don't know what was going on there.
That was gross. So,
yes.
What an invasion of privacy. Like, not knowing that you're basically being watched or filmed by somebody you know. That's so awful.
I can almost imagine it cutting back to like G'Kar, and he's like, I'm trying to read lips. I think Sheridan's saying, woohoo.
No more woohoos. Just let me forget that line exists in the show.
Okay. Oh dear. Yeah. So and that final little. I mean, the speech that Delenn gives in the narration is fine, but like that final little joke with the eyes a bit weird.
No. It crossed the line.
It crossed the line.
I mean, I know they were trying to be jokey about everything, but like, you think one of the actors would have been like, wait, this is a bit weird, right?
The 90s were a different time, you know?
I guess at least Londo didn't like also have like a hidden camera ring or whatever that he set up when he first met Sheridan.
I mean, it was only another year or two before American Pie, I think, at this point, and there's a whole bit in the middle of that movie where they're trying to spy on the girl, get their clothes off by like having the camera on. And that's really problematic when you go back and watch it now. You're like, this is straight up like assault, basically. Like, like this is not
it's
right.
Definitely not okay. Mm-hmm.
So maybe this is just like the 90s. They had some weird values with their attitudes towards this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I guess JMS did grow up at a time where like Revenge of the Nerds was considered okay.
Yeah, odd moment. So obviously there's a lot of curiosity to get at this next episode, this like new season finale they had to make.
They're gonna see an eyeball on their table, right? You know.
I expect it's going to pick up a little bit. I don't think it's going to start with them waking up and going, "Is that an eyeball on the table?" I love the idea we get a scene of G'Kar come in. It's like, oh, sorry to bother you two crazy kids, but I think I misplaced my eye. Oh, it's over there on the table. Thank you.
Ugh. Not okay, dude.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. I can't wait for the comments in this to try and give us some context to why this is not weird. Maybe people will just agree with us, but I'm half expecting some sort of weird, like, you know, bending over backwards.
Yeah, this is like Franklin bringing someone to his quarters because it was closer than sick bay.
So
no, not okay.
I look forward to the comments on this one to see what people think of it. But that's pretty much it. That's pretty much this kind of epilogue. I mean, I'm saying the next one was going to be an epilogue as well, but this one was like the epilogue right now, whereas I think the finale that's been pushed is probably the epilogue set years later that gives us like a bit of a larger context.
That's what I'm thinking too. Yeah.
So, yeah. But let us know what you thought of this one in the comments. You can like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications. All that stuff does help. As does go to patreon.com. Isn't that right, Tara?
That's right, Peter. If you enjoy our reviews, please check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MouthFuzzTV, where you can donate as low as $1 per month and get access to some bonus episodes that we do for other shows. And if you donate $5 per month, you'll get access to these reviews for Babylon 5 6 days early. So head on over, check that out. Thank you.
Yeah, but that is us. That is we're almost done with season 4 of Babylon 5. So
pretty crazy.
Get us next week for the finale, and we'll be getting season 5. And Who knows what's beyond that? You know, another sci-fi show
Lex.
of the past. It's not Lex. It's definitely not Lex. I actually want something with a fan base that will click on it.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be Quantum Leap.
Quantum Leap's very high in the possibilities. Stargate and Farscape have also been discussed, but those are the possibilities. So maybe there'll be a vote or something. Maybe the patrons will get to vote. I don't know. But well, I'm not. This is not a decision. We're not making any decisions right now. This is just all just putting feelers out. That's all.
Yep.
But thank you very much for joining us. We always appreciate it. Keep watching Babylon 5, and remember to never give up the homeworld unless it's into an alliance that treats you as an equal with all the other alien species. One might call it a federation.